if we have to do that. Hello.
Just wait a minute.
Oui, Giovanni, moi, je vais me retirer là. Il y a trop de choses à régler. Ça va? Vous êtes assez bien sans moi.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to bring you this event, which is called the Moonshot, the AI4Health Moonshot for Belgium. My name is Giovanni Briganti, and I'm the AI4Health lead at AI4Belgium. Okay, this helps me into introducing the event. Why an AI4Health Moonshot event? Is Belgium the promised land of AI in healthcare? I believe it is, and I believe also my co-speakers today also believe it is. And we have put together an event to answer some very big questions around artificial intelligence in healthcare. And we start with one very simple affirmation. Belgium is a kind of a burning platform of artificial intelligence in health. That is, and we saw this with the previous Belgian AI Week, Belgium makes so many great things in terms of AI and digital health, but we need to do more. We need to consolidate our efforts into proving that we can be the best country in the world for artificial intelligence in health. And to prove you this, I brought you some very good speakers that I will introduce you progressively in our event. You are quite a bit following us into YouTube and Zoom, and this is why we'll start the event right now. Accompanying us today, we have Thierry Getz, country director from Google, Anne Jacobs, professor at Smith VUB, Benoît Mac, professor at UCL and co-founder of Trail, Sabine Demey, program director of AI Flanders program, Sébastien Deletaille, founder of Rosa and Belgium 40 under 40, and our general manager, Nathanael Ackerman, as well as you all that will be joining us and ask your questions and in the chat, and with the help of our technical support of Casper and Alexander from Boza. I will check, is Thierry already connected? So I see that it is not. So we will maybe start with the research part of the event that Benoît is the first to give. Benoît is a professor of engineering at UC Louvain. He started the coalition in Wallonia, the Trail Coalition, the Trusted AI Labs, which makes such promising projects in the field of artificial intelligence and also within the field of health, with a very promising health track. Benoît, the floor is yours. You can request the remote control and advance a bit among the slides.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Giovanni. It's a real pleasure to be here. So I will jump above the slides of Thierry. There are some connection problems, too much security here, probably with a lot of logins and passwords, but I succeeded it. Okay, so thank you very much. And it's my pleasure to give an overview of what we are doing in AI4Health in Wallonia. And in fact, it's the joint of two major strategic initiatives. You know that in Wallonia, the research and innovation is architecture around less than 20 strategic innovation initiatives. And among them, there are two, one dedicated to the research on AI, which is Trusted Research AI Labs, and one other which is emerging, which name was Remedia, but now the name is MedResist, Médecine des réseaux and the system. It means system and network medicine. And so I will give you a small insight about this intersection of the two initiatives. I would like to apologize for some of the French, which is still remaining in my slides. It's a bilingual slides that I'm showing, and I hope I will translate when necessary. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So in Wallonia, we have a very strong activity in medicine, and one of the key partner in the field of medicine is BioWin. You know, we have some leaders. We have the world leader in proton therapy for cancer treatment. We have large company, large facilities of GSK for vaccine. There is a very strong activity in the cell therapy. Stem cells is a technology which is very much developed in Wallonia. So we have several key actors, and I think in the activity of Wallonia, the amount of job is quite big. So that's a first thing. So we have excellent center. We have a lot of activity in open source. So I just cite Orthanc, but there are a lot of other activity. We have strong connection, strong international connection. I named two of them, which is the Berlin Health Institute and the Harvard Medical School. And the revolution here in medicine, there are a lot of companies, but also hospitals, researchers, MDs and people from the hospital who are speaking about deep medicine. And one originality of the things that we do in Wallonia is that we would like to combine deep medicine with network medicine. Network medicine is the way we can understand pathogenesis, the way we can design new drug repurposing program, the way we can design new treatment plan or new diagnosis on the global interaction across the biological continuum, starting from the DNA, going through ARN, proteins, metabolites, and also the global exposome and the clinical data. So there is a strong interest to interconnect all the biological layers, including medical imaging and including clinical data and exposome, to better understand, to better the diagnosis, and to better do treatment plans. So next slide. So if I succeed to switch to the next slides. Okay, why? Yeah, it's going too fast here. So we started our work by doing some benchmark. There is since some years ago, there is the Precision Medicine Initiative in the US, where they want to use big data and network medicine to decrease the cost of the health cost, the healthcare cost, but also in the same time to increase the quality of care. Why the big data is allowing that? Because you diagnose it, the diagnosis is more personalized, is earlier, and you can treat the disease with less cost and less annoyance for the patient. So it's very important to go in that direction. We have connection with the UK Biobank in the UK, where all the data is collected there, and there are some models which allow to do better screening of breast cancer or better treatment of some diseases, earlier detection of Alzheimer's diseases and things like that. So the slides are going too fast. So I would like to be back on my slides. Maybe it's here. What should I do to be back on my slides? So
with the arrow, Benoit.
Yeah, the arrow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Where here is there? No, but with the here. No. Arrow there. It's in Flemish. So which one should I click?
I will try to help you, Benoit. I will try to request control.
It's not that important. So I had some example to show to you, and I don't know if we can see it. Yeah, thank you. It's going slow. Yeah, this is an example, and I have only 6 minutes, so I wanted to focus on one example to really show you the case. One case. One case is the case of fractioning for proton therapy. So the idea is that when you do proton therapy, you want to deliver a radiation doses on the tumor, and you want to avoid to touch any organ at risk around the tumor. And so for doing so, artificial intelligence and big data can be a very helpful tool. Just to show an example, a very practical example, because the same methodology is applied in many different diseases. To do the fractioning, we know that we can rely on a model of the cell, the tumor cell proliferation. If we have such a very good model of the tumor cell proliferation, then it's possible to do reinforcement learning. If we have a model, we can model the effect of the radiation on the tumor and the effect of the remaining radiation on the organ at risk. And we can try the game. We can do like a Go game or like a chess game. We can play many parties and find the best party with deep reinforcement learning. So if we have good digital twin of the patient, digital twin of the cancer, we can really personalize the care and do the best dose fractioning in this case. But it's also used in the case of drug repurposing. If you do chemotherapy on a tumor, you can use artificial intelligence and digital twin of the patient to try different drugs and to avoid painful treatment and to do the most precise treatment. So this idea of optimizing dose fractioning with IBA is running close to practice, it's running close to clinical test. And what we do next is to do not only a digital twin, but also a biological twin. We use stem cells, we use a biopsy of the cancer, and we plug the cancer cells on the stem cell tissue, and we can create a mini stomach or a mini liver with the tumor cells, and we can do the imaging and do the characterization of the tumor in such a way that the digital twin is very faithful to what's happening. A last point that I want to add, Giovanni, is that we use a lot of AI in the field of imaging. And so when you deliver the radiation to the tumor, through the imaging, we are exploring what we say in vivo histology. So the idea in the past, the radiology was just looking to the tumor and the organ at risk. And now we are able to look at the cells themselves and really capture from the radiological signals some information about the biology of the cells. And that's done through AI also, because we have models that we have a plug of a cellular models to the radiology, and it's very possible to improve and to understand what's the effect of the radiation. So the idea is to say we do a first radiation delivery, we observe the reaction of the tumor, and through the reaction of the tumor that we observe by radiology, by diffusion weighted MRI, we are able to refine the digital twin. So the initial digital twin is improved along the treatment and allows to do a treatment adaptation. I will not elaborate about early detection of Alzheimer's combining imaging and proteins detection. I will not elaborate about the things we do in psychiatry together, Giovanni. We have very promising program together with you. I will not elaborate about early detection of prostate cancer and breast cancer, but these are all topics which are covered in the field of network medicine, the use of digital twin of patient, the use of optimization of treatment through reinforcement learning. And it's a very promising field in which we will elaborate more and more along regional program, but also in the frame of European program. We are developing a test and experimentation facility with Berlin and Paris. We are connected through the Network Medicine Association, which is centered in Harvard. And so we are in a very exciting landscape in this field. So thank you very much, Giovanni, for my flow.
Thank you, Benoit, for the very exciting presentation. So as Thierry could join us, thank you, Thierry. So I will present him. Thierry, while I present to you, please do request the remote control in view options so that you can go back to your slides. So you will need to slide back a few slides to get yours. While Thierry does that, I'm very happy to introduce you Thierry Getz, the country director of Google Belgium. Thierry has many exciting ideas around the use of artificial intelligence in the field of health, as he has outspoken it in some of his books. And I have the pleasure to introduce to you today. Thierry, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello everyone. Sorry I was late, but I was struggling with the system. The best thing, I cannot take over the control immediately either, but I hope somebody will click for me on next slide when I will request it. What I want to do, and I will do it in a quarter of an hour because we are a bit late, is to give you the context in which the world we are living and why AI is so important and why AI should be the real moonshot for our country. We are not living in Belgium, not in Flanders, not in Wallonie, not in Brussels anymore. We all live in Digitalis. And Digitalis is a new world with 4.5 billion inhabitants connected to the web. And this seems to be strange, but it's the reality. And we have lived that in the last years, thanks to, it's only thanks to the fact that we were in Digitalis, we were able to develop a vaccine in 1 year time. It's a historical record to do that. It's only possible because we connect all the researchers in the world. We have shared information like never before about the virus. And thanks to the combination of information that we can share and the knowledge that we can that can work together, we were able to find a vaccine in 12 months' time. We have now a real bunch of technology available to reinvent our world from the internet, but also all the technology that you see appearing, like wearables, robotics, nanotechnologies, and obviously AI. Now, to make it very practical on AI and machine learning, what Google is doing with machine learning is trying to find the difference between a Chihuahua and a muffin. And that should be visible on next slide. Why would we invest the best engineers to find the difference between a Chihuahua and a muffin? Because it's super complicated. For a human being, it's obvious what's the difference between both. For a computer, this is really complicated. Then the question is, why would we want to find the difference? Well, because we are making more than 3,000 pictures a year. And then if you want to find the picture of your dog, it's almost impossible. You have to scroll through 10,000 pictures, and that's not very convenient. But the good news is we have found a solution. And if you do that now, you go to Google, you say, okay, Google, picture of my dog, and you will have only the picture of your dog. It starts to be interesting, not finding pictures of dogs. It starts to be interesting when you use this technology to other things. And another big problem of society is breast cancer. I don't know if you know, but by diagnosis of a breast cancer, 1/3 of the diagnoses are just wrong. The radiologist will miss a little cancer cell, will maybe have a bad day, but the result is a disastrous diagnostic. And on next picture, you will see that by using this technology, we have reduced the error rates from 34% to 2%. So not reduced by 10% or something like that. No, reduced from 34% to 2%. 2% is still too high, but it's obviously far better than we had before. That's the kind of breakthrough that AI can do for healthcare. A not total other way of looking at, for example, imagery. And I think the examples of Benoit were also quite obvious. Why should we do that? Because all these technologies have brought us to the 4th industrial revolution on next slide. We are living in the middle of a big transformation, which is the digital transformation. You all know that we are in 4th industrial revolution, but we don't think about the impact of that. If you live in an industrial revolution, that means that you have to reinvent everything that you did before to this new technology. So if you look about healthcare, it's not about doing healthcare as we do today in Belgium and then adding some technology, for example, doing exactly the same, but then looking at a mammography with the help of AI. We have to reinvent the full system. Everything that you're doing, every procedure is based on the prior industrial revolution. It's also a fantastic opportunity because healthcare is big business for our country. It's very impactful for society, and it's definitely something that's not always working as well. And we have big challenges like how do we keep the population healthy while we are becoming older and older every year. And in this revolution, we have had a fantastic or amazing or sometimes a bit fast transformation. Thanks to COVID, we accelerated almost everything. And now we are fully in this 4th industrial revolution. The interesting thing about the 4th industrial revolution is that the raw material that we need for this revolution, you know, the raw materials of prior industrial revolution were coal and oil. And as you know, these are very polluting, but also a big risk from a geopolitical point of view. The raw material of the new industrial revolution is knowledge. And knowledge is about people. And that's why it's so important, because it's a very human transformation. We are in the center of this transformation. We can make a better world if we want, using those now available technology. On next slide, you will see why this is a more human transformation. First of all, exchanging and finding information is definitely human. We can do now at a scale that we never have seen before. We can be connected with 4 billion people and change ideas, talk to our friends, even if they are far away. We can teleport ourselves to Copenhagen or to Singapore, which is definitely human. We are gaining time. I want 2 hours a day thanks to the use of video conferencing compared to the pre-pandemic situation where I had to travel all over the country, and winning 2 hours of time is just so human. But the decision is human. If you want to lose time on social media, with those 2 hours, you can invest in social media. That's not very human. Or you can decide to invest your 2 hours a day to be better human, to be closer to your family, but also to be more healthy. And all the technology will help us to be more human. We are not a human. You are not an Homo digitalis, and you are not an Homo sapiens anymore. We are all an Homo digitalis, and digitalis is just a better version of ourselves. We can be more healthy. On next slide. Now, to be more healthy, we have to reinvent. As I said, reinvent everything, reinventing healthcare. How should we do that? On next slide. Well, first of all, we have to change our mind. All our healthcare system is based on a curative system. We are living normally, and then when becoming sick or when we have an accident, we go to the hospital, and then we are fixed. Thanks to machine learning and all these technologies that are available, we can go to a predictive healthcare. By all these sensors that we can have on our body, by all this machine learning, we can know in advance if you are sick or not. We don't have to wait to get sick to get fixed. And the next step will go from predictive medicine to well-being, because being healthy is nice, but as you see, one of the biggest problems in society now is burnouts and stress and psychological problems. So going from curative to predictive, but also to well-being, thanks to personalized medicine, and that's what's been mentioned also. On next slide, you can see some examples of how we can reinvent that. For example, we can reduce fully the admin. Every paperwork that you have now in hospital, which is an amazing, tons of paper you can just get rid of. All those connected apps and devices, so that we can measure our healthcare in real time, all the time, and also that the citizen can be aware of his health, which is definitely a breakthrough compared to last year's. The next one is telemedicine. You don't go to the doctor anymore, in a waiting room just to have an advice. If you can have it by distance, and so we can have the same doctor handling more patients than never before, and that will be necessary because we don't have enough people in the healthcare sector. And as last, the use of AI for imagery was my last example. But that's just a part of the examples. It's really reinventing everything. You are active in different sectors, but therefore we have to unlock data with respect for the privacy, and then use machine learning and AI to make it possible. It's the full mix that you see on this slide, from personal devices from one sense to medical data, the analysis of genome, and then the data that we can analyze and process with machine learning that can make our personal medication and empowered personal staff. This will happen if you like it or not, and it's in fact happening now. The only question for today is, will it happen in Belgium, or will it happen in Silicon Valley and in China, like it had happened for Uber or happened with Alibaba? And I think in this case, it can happen in Belgium. But therefore, we have to make this moonshot that we want to reinvent healthcare in Belgium. On next slide. And why is this the best moonshot for Belgium? Well, on next slide, if you can, Giovanni. Why is this the best moonshot for Belgium? First of all, for citizens. We want more healthy citizens. We want them to become older, and it has to be payable. So definitely, it's a good thing. And by the way, thanks to Corona, in a way, it's top of mind. So if we say, Alexander De Croo would say tomorrow, we will make from healthcare our most important priority, it will be a credible moonshot. Secondly, for the government, keeping the population healthy is nice, but it has huge costs. If we wanted to make it an affordable cost, the only way is to reinvent it. And with digitalization, we can make it cheaper, more affordable, more democratic to everyone. It's also interesting for the national government because it's the only capacity that we have everywhere in the regions. We have biotechnology in Flanders and Wallonia and in Brussels. We have big pharma present everywhere. We have universities present everywhere, and we have citizens present everywhere. If you would choose another sector to make a moonshot, you would always have the problem that there is more aeronautics in Wallonia, or there is more chemistry, for example. In Flanders, healthcare is well spread for political reasons all over Belgium. And then at last, for the economy, it's obviously the best opportunity. And I say the economy, but it's broader, it's also for academics. We have all the assets. We are already the Silicon Valley of healthcare today. We are not aware of that, but we have more big pharma companies present in Belgium than everywhere else in the world. We have biotech, we have the best clinical tests that we can imagine. We have the best hospitals, we have qualified personnel, we have the best research, we have an amazing tax system to attract research and academics. We have everything set to be the best ones. But for the moment, we use all those things in an old-fashioned, old industrial way. We have to adapt that to reality of today and tomorrow. And therefore, as slide, I would love our national governments, but also all regional governments and everyone working on AI to have a big moonshot for healthcare. And what it could be before 2030, Belgium will be the world's leading country in healthcare and AI, have the world-class affordable healthcare system, and the most healthy citizens of the world. And you know what? This is absolutely feasible. And the last point is we have to get everyone to know it. Everyone in the world, 8 billion people, needs to know that Belgium is the best place for healthcare so that we attract talent and that we have the best and most proud country in the world. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Thierry, for a very inspiring keynote on why Belgium is the promised land of health and digital health and artificial intelligence. Thank you so much. And therefore, we get back on track and we keep on going with why, to get to this moonshot, we need to have, and we do have, the best research ecosystem. And to keep moving forward, as we presented the Wallonian initiatives, we do have Professor Anne Jacobs from VUB, who will take over from the Smith Lab and IMEC to present the non-technical initiatives in AI in health in Belgium. Anne, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Giovanni. Also struggling a bit with taking over here the slides. Yeah. So we had a short recap of these two nice presentations before me, and I want to connect also to the prior presentations, is that to make it really a Belgium, the opportunity we have in Belgium is at the core of the European Union, and our European values are also important to incorporate, of course, in the digital technology that we are creating today. And that's why, for me, it's necessary. It's very necessary. It's a prerequisite. It's not an afterthought to think about all the non-technical, non-clinical aspects as well while we are developing these new techniques to do better healthcare with AI. And just to shortly mention, you saw the slides also before, it's like we are social scientists, we are a team of researchers at VUB, also interdisciplinary from humanities and social sciences, and our core activity is to think and to research in how technology, and especially AI and robotics, will have influence, and how we can have already, while developing some advice about how to take into account maybe some unexpected or decided consequences. And so one of the initiatives I wanted to point out is at the VUB, we have Robotics, which is a center of different research teams working interdisciplinary. And one of the topics we are tackling now in collaboration with international partners is actually creating a consultation, an international consultation of the robotics community about the SDGs, so the Sustainable Development Goals, on which health is a very important one, and where we know there is some tussle between the SDGs. And so working and discussing from different perspectives how this can have implications and how it can also set our research agenda about what's important to prioritize, it's really a good step forward. Another initiatives in Flanders, also part of the bigger AI plan in Flanders, is the Kenniscentrum Data en Maatschappij, which is actually a transition organization between the different research centers at the different universities in law, in social sciences, towards all kind of organizations and industry about how to cope with these challenges on ethics, on legal aspects. And one of the research that was done by our colleagues of the University of Ghent shows actually on this slide that people are willing to share the data they are already normally sharing with their healthcare professional, but about the new types of data they are collecting themselves by their mobiles, by their wearables. They're a bit more reluctant about that. And how are we going to organize that in the future is one of the research topics we are all also looking into. Other tools are created within this Kenniscentrum Data en Maatschappij, also workshop formats, data dates, also on healthcare. So please take a look also there, and I will also further elaborate on this blind spot healthcare in the workshop that is planned later in the afternoon on AI in hospitals. So I will not take my time for that. I think also another important aspect of developing the acceptation of AI solutions in society in Belgium and beyond is working on educational programs that are tailored for the different target groups. So for example, the Kenniscentrum organized and collaborated in creating an educational program that Vives, the Hogeschool Vives, created to support healthcare organizations and especially also hospitals to embrace this and to work on this broader acceptance of AI solutions and also understanding both the opportunities and the limitations. Another aspect that is developed within the Flanders AI plan and also in collaboration with the Kenniscentrum is the AMAI project. And it's really citizen-oriented because it's not only the different industries that needs to be become aware about the opportunities and the limitations, but also citizens. And it's really important also to educate and consult also bottom up which kind of initiatives that could be good for society from their point of view. And so together with Civil, there is this AMAI project, and last year there were 98 ideas collected, and one of the ideas got extra funding to further develop, and one of those 4 granted projects was on the personal diabetic assistant, and it was already a project that was already in a pilot phase, and that could, with this contribution, be a bit further developed into real practice. And in the next year, in this year, 2020, there will be also attention to what are the prerequisites for organizations to embrace this kind of AI solutions within the AMAI projects, which is also very interesting knowledge, I think, for the healthcare sector. So keep an eye also on the output of that program. And last but not least, there is this new initiative of the ULB and the VUB, which is called FARI, which is actually an institute in Brussels focusing on AI for the common good. And they have, next to a research program, an educational program, they also have this target of also having this civic outreach and also offering this kind of services, legal and ethical services to organizations that are struggling in the Brussels region. And I think that's a very valuable initiative that can be growing and also giving the necessary support in this risky environment that AI still is today. So this is my short update from the Brussels and Flemish side on what AI research on non-technical aspects can bring to this moonshot in Belgium.
Thank you so much, Professor Anne Jacobs, for this very nice presentation on what are the initiatives, non-technical initiatives running AI in health, specifically in the Brussels and Flanders region. Next up on the agenda is Dr. Sabine de May, which is the director of Flanders AI Research Program. Sabine is very active in the coordination of the AI initiatives in Flanders and has joined us today to present to us the AI Flanders program. Sabine, the floor is yours. If you can request the remote control also to change the slides.
Can I now move forward?
You need to go on view options and on the up screen and do request control.
Yes, that's what I did, and I have the message you can control Casper's screen.
Oh, maybe our technical support, Casper and Alexander, can make you a co-host or change the slide.
Yeah. Am I now moving? Oh, okay, yeah. So thanks, Giovanni, for inviting me to explain how the AI Flanders initiative is already contributing to what you see at the top. Contribute, how with AI we can contribute to living a healthy life for longer. Of course, also with an affordable cost of healthcare. So I'm indeed the director of the Flanders AI Research Program, which is one part of the AI Flanders. I will explain later the other parts also. But looking into healthcare, and some of the speakers already alluded to it, the AI health ecosystem is, as you know, very, very broad, very elaborate. A lot of stakeholders are involved. And at the center, of course, we have our patients. And in Flanders, we have quite some stakeholders involved in the AI Flanders program, from hospitals, medical professionals, over medtech companies. Of course, government is involved. Also, different universities, other research centers, all contribute to this plan. This plan consists of three major parts. So we have a research program, the Flanders AI Research Program is called. We also have measures to support the implementation of AI at companies and organizations, so also hospitals. And there are also several what we call supporting activities. Some of them are already mentioned by Anne, and I will also talk a bit more about them. It's the importance of education and training, so working on skills, the ethical and legal aspect, and also the involvement of the citizens in this process. And already in Flanders, we have quite some collaboration between the different stakeholders here. But of course, I agree with what earlier said. We are not, we of course are living in Flanders, but we are living in Flanders, in Belgium, in the world. And of course, looking at a broader perspective is important. That's one side of the story. The other side is, of course, that we also do not have to wait till the full story and the moonshot is fully defined and launched, because there are quite some things that we can already do. And I would like to show some examples of the things that we are already working on. For instance, in the research program, and it's perhaps already a bit too detailed slide, but I will walk through the concept of it. So we are working on what we call generic research challenges. And these are technical things. We are working on edge AI, collaborative AI systems, but we are working a lot also on the human-centered AI methods, so also on sustainable AI. But the core of the program is that we apply those research methods in the different focus domains. And they are also based on the sustainable development goals and the domains that are important for Flanders. And of course, health is one of them. In the end, our goal is that we have an increased adoption of AI, because we do believe that AI contributes also in the health domain. And key to this are the demonstrators. So and I will show some examples in which we illustrate that research we are doing can effectively be used in several health applications. One of them is, for instance, the epileptic seizure detection at home. So we want to move from a situation where patients have to be monitored in the hospital towards a more ambulatory monitoring with small medical wearable devices. And the research challenge behind is to have very performant AI methods on time series. By the way, this is really a very generic research challenge because it overlaps a lot with, for instance, doing predictive maintenance on windmill farms. So this is really core research, but we do illustrate it with this application in health. Another thing we are looking into it was also already mentioned, data collection is very important, also taking care of the privacy aspects. And we know it is really a challenge to have all medical data collected. On the other hand, we see that if there is really a concrete need, for instance, at the time, a few years, 2 years ago, when COVID popped up, there was really the request from the people at the multiple sclerosis centers. What is the effect of COVID on patients with MS? And they noticed that each center on its own did not have enough data to come to a good decision. So they really, and that was under the impulse of people from U Hasselt and the AI Flanders program, we made really a platform with taking care of the privacy aspects with the whole data wrangling pipeline. And so this was really an initiative in which you already know, you see here the figures, data from 10,000 people from 80 different countries is being handled together. It's not about everything in health, but it is really a very nice example where you see that it is possible to do this. And from AI Flanders, we are also contributing here with the technical aspects to make this all happen. Similarly also, and it is again related to data and knowledge in a healthcare setting, we're also working on a platform, and it has its already a follow-up project, DVR platform, in which we see how patients and citizens can take care of their data, and we're using make use of the solid technology for that. So patients and citizens can manage their own data, deciding which data to take in, and deciding also which academic centers or industry can make use of their data. Also taking into account, of course, the privacy aspects. So these are 3 examples, but we have more. We are looking into precision medicine, predictive care, so with MS case, but also with data, with demonstrators and research on single cell technologies. On the clinical decision support, I mentioned epileptic seizure detection, but we're also looking into medical imaging and also what Benoit was mentioning, the radiation oncology, radiology applications, also image segmentation of COVID patients and so on. Hospital decision systems, for instance, systems to look into the length of stay and optimizations there, and the personal health data management. So at this moment, we are looking into these demonstrators, and we are illustrating the research for it. Here. Sorry, moving too fast. So education is also very important. So we have also the Flange AI Academy. And if you would look at their website, you see quite some trainings and courses on health. And these are both technical and what's called more the less technical or non-technical aspects. And it's also a collaboration between all universities and the university colleges, different organizations. Another center, the Knowledge Center Data and Society, also already mentioned by Anne, is also very active in healthcare applications or in healthcare. And Anne already mentioned, for instance, the AI blind spots as a tool. We will not go deeper into that. And also what Anne was already mentioning, the AMAI project, the Diabetes project. So involving the citizens in our projects is also one of our key aspects of our program. If you want to know more, because there's lots of more things to tell, I've mentioned here a few of our websites in which you can find more information about the research. This is only in Dutch, but contains very nice stories also about companies involved in AI, the education and the knowledge society website. I think that's my last slide. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sabine, for a very nice overview on why Flanders contributes to Belgian excellent research and education ecosystem for AI in health. Thank you, Sabine. The next speaker has an impressive CV, and Bart Beeks is here with us today to now transition to a more company-based vision. Why is Belgium a strong company ecosystem for development of artificial intelligence in health? Bart, the floor is yours. Bart, I think you're on mute.
Now not anymore.
Good, thank you, Bart.
Hi everyone. So I'm Bart, and I'm chairman at the eHealth Venture. But I also have two roles that are somewhat interesting for the topic, because I believe that policy can have a huge impact on the domain. So I chair Euractiv, but I also joined the European Innovation Council, which is a new organization within the EU, where a 10 billion budget was freed up to invest in mainly deep tech, promising startups and entrepreneurs, and healthcare is a very important part of that. Let's maybe start with, I think, the good news of 21, which is that if you look at a global investment in artificial intelligence, it's a record year ever. So you see that it doubled, even if it's it's still a second COVID or Corona year. You can see here that the total investments done in AI based startups grew from 32 to 66 billion. So that's quite a growth amount, and 1/5, over 20% of that is in AI for healthcare. So that means that on a global scale, over 13 billion was invested in AI enabled startups or scale-ups related to healthcare. That resulted in a lot of high valuations anywhere. Unicorns are what they are, but you see that US is, of course, still the leader in it, 8 new ones, and bringing it to 77 in total, and Europe is lagging behind. So Asia second and Europe is third. We only had 1 new unicorn with a valuation over $1 billion last year, bringing it to 6 in total. So there's clearly a catch-up to be made. Besides investing, it's always interesting also to look at exits, because unicorn valuation is only a certain valuation by a certain investor at a certain time. The exits are often more talking, and there was last year nearly 50 exits on healthcare or on digital healthcare that happened. Most are M&A, so acquisitions usually by other companies. There had a couple of IPOs. It was a slow market in terms of IPOs, certainly also in US. And then a couple are based on the SPAC mechanism. So for those a bit less familiar, a SPAC mechanism is where you do a company takeover, raise money on it, and then build out new activities based on that. It's quite new, but it's also one of the most or one of the elements that is being used a lot in Europe, and now also even in Belgium, we have the first SPAC deals that are happening, and which are bringing liquidity to investors, which is always something sought after. If we look at the specific European level, there were over 500 deals, which is approximately, or 500 investments that are being done, which is approximately the same in terms of number, but the amount grew with 80%. So that means that the funding that is being done by or into European digital healthcare companies, the funds or the investment size is increasing, which means, I don't have the slide here, but last Friday we had a board meeting, a European summit in in Paris, and you see that Europe is actually winning or gaining a lot of traction in everything that is early stage investing. So if you look at the very early phases, the amount of deals being done in Europe is nearly as high as Asia and US. But the moment that you come to mid stage and later stage, we are completely out competed. Now, there's also from European side a couple of interesting things. Patents are often a bit the innovations of the future. We have a lot of institutes that are doing great work here in Belgium, Flanders, and Wallonia. And in terms of patents that are related to healthcare and or use of digital technology in healthcare, Europe is leading before US and China. So that's a really interesting element to build on. Another element to build on is a mapping that is being done to see how reimbursement for digital healthcare apps works, or what the policy framework is related to that. And if you look there, you see that Belgium is one of the 3 leaders globally, together with Germany and France. So we have the mHealth system that is currently, I think mHealth now recognizes 50 apps where reimbursement is can be done. Based on this analysis, the framework that is there could be a very interesting framework for a lot of digital health applications and others to start building a model and being sustainable innovations. You see, of course, the size of the market doesn't help us. We are who we are here in Belgium. So it also says, well, there is a mechanism now to do this quickly, and there's an interest to do it, but our companies are going to have to scale in order to win sufficient mass. And so that's something that we're going to have to learn from day one, is even though a lot of the healthcare markets are often very regionally protected, we're going to have to find a way to scale our healthcare apps and data models. Yeah, Belgium is there. And if you look at which of the markets it can be, I'm not going to go too much into detail of this, but of course you have the entire digital health ecosystem, medicine, but also one of the most promising markets is everything related to digital therapeutics, because that is just one where, and we have the monetization model, and it is scalable across a lot of markets. So the earlier and the bolder we get there, and I join, I think the quest of everybody to do that, the better, or the better it will be for the entrepreneurs, and at the end, the people using the apps. If you look at AI in healthcare, it's already used a lot in diagnostics and clinical decision support, but there's also a lot of, probably share the slides later, you see that it still needs to evolve a lot. And that's also one of the things that we try to do at eHealth Venture. So you see our building is ready. Next month we're opening it finally, but we're building a venture or a studio, an accelerator, and also a fund, because we believe that this ecosystem is required to have digital health initiatives. We try to do that by building an ecosystem of a lot of partners. You see a couple of them here, but in the meantime, we've passed 50 partners, because having an ecosystem of corporate, academic, hospitals, testing, technology partners is something where we can de-risk and accelerate some of the startups that we do. And I was looking at which of our startups, so we did 8 investments over the last year, which of the ones are using AI, and it was 6 out of 8, of course. AI Bright is a French company. BioExplore is a new one that we invested, where it's detection of or providing insights on data for cancer detection. BioExplore is a German company. Evoluno is one on mental health care, where you can have patterns of recognition for people that can have burnout or other kind of elements. Parks is a UK company that we're now bringing into the Benelux, where we use AI to see where kids with learning disabilities can be guided in a more individualized way. So the AI has a leverage on all of the portfolio. And so that's it for a short intro.
Thank you so much, Bart. Yes, I confirm that the eHealth Venture building is very nice, and I invite you all to go visit it. Thank you, Bart, for this very nice overview. Okay, we have established that with our previous speakers that Belgium is a very nice ecosystem and a strong ecosystem for having a moonshot in AI for health, for research purposes and for business purposes. Now that we have this overview, what do we do next? And this is the next part of our step. I would like to first introduce the next part of this talk. And I start the remote control. Okay. And of course, now that we know that Belgium is an ecosystem, the question is, what do we do next? And the question of what do we do next is how do we get there, and for what purpose do we get there? Of course, as Thierry Getz mentioned, we need to have a moonshot project. But how do we put into place a moonshot project? We saw that regions have very important projects going on with AI for health that span all areas from clinical, from imaging, from administrative burden, from monitoring aspects. But how do we get there together, and so that we get there faster and in a more meaningful way? Well, of course, the AI for Health vision is that we need a lighthouse. We need a lighthouse to coordinate, to accelerate, and to support Belgium's achievement. Coordinate the development and implementation of AI for health solutions, accelerate the implementation of AI in healthcare, and support the education of health professionals, all the while supporting our regional initiatives that deal with health. As I get back to my slides, what should be the missions of such a Lighthouse project? Well, as I said, first coordinating what? The design, the implementation, and the testing of AI solution. Nowadays, one of the crucial processes of getting a technology that uses a digital way of treating or approaching the patient needs to show that it has a clinical value, a clinical added value that really helps the patient. Well, of course, conducting such studies from an AI level gets complicated if we only focus on one specific hospital in one specific region. We need to carry out more multi-centric studies that cover the whole of Belgium in testing these AI solutions, in proving that they have concrete added value. The second one is to build the foundations of medical data governance. Many of the burden of what we are going through with the AI adoption is that even when hospitals are willing to develop a given solution with a startup or a scale-up or a big company, they need to know how and in what capacity they can share the patient data involving the patients to develop such solutions. And building the foundations of medical data governance is an urgency right now in Belgium, so that we can move forward with concrete projects. The third is to educate our healthcare professionals. Of course, any technology can be as beautiful and as performant as we want, but if healthcare professionals do not adopt it, of course, we are losing our time. And this is why one of the main objectives that we have at AI for Health is to educate the European healthcare professionals to the potentials of AI and digital health, with the help and supporting our regional initiatives and educational programs. Of course, once the technologies are developed, we need to have a way of facilitating their adoption in our healthcare institutions, such as hospitals or nursing homes. Of course, this implies putting forward some more projects on the reimbursement and facilitating the adoption itself of technologies within the hospital. These are problems, these are challenges that are dealt at a federal level, and this is why it is necessary to tackle these issues right now for AI technologies. And last but also important, solving the ethical and legal issues that are bound to medical AI. Nowadays, we do know that is a complicated issue to deal with, the ethical and legal implications of using AI in clinical applications, and we do need guidance on how to do that. So this was our vision at AI for Health, for AI for Health Lighthouse, but this only manage the AI side. How do we get AI in health to work in Belgium for a Moonshot project. But of course, as Thierry Getz mentioned before, getting the AI right is just one step of imagining what the future of health will look like. And to talk about the future of health, we have invited Sébastien Deletaille, which he's a founder of ROSA and has been implicated for many years in development of digital applications for healthcare, to talk about his new initiative, the future of health. Sébastien, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Giovanni. It's a real pleasure to be able to share this panel with my fellow speakers. And as you introduced, I think for me, the objective is maybe just to step back a bit and frame the discussion on AI for health in this broader context. Why do we need AI for health? How is it going to contribute to the future of healthcare? And this is the tricky part, because in Belgium, when you ask the question, well, what does the future of healthcare look like? You don't really get an answer. Or actually, the type of answer you're going to get is, well, the future of healthcare is the same as today, but just with more budget. And that's kind of a fallacy, right? Humankind is bad at making predictions, particularly in a world that's subject to technological disruptions. But I mean, it's obvious to everyone probably in this call that the future of healthcare is not going to be the same as today. It's going to be different, and it's going to be different, especially thanks to technology. And the purpose of my presentation and to close this panel today is really to say, well, in the future of healthcare, it's undeniable that we're going to need AI. Why? And here I would just like to share the key attributes of what's going to happen in the healthcare space and show why there's a dependency for AI. For me, the first tectonic shift in regard to the future of healthcare is around the concept of health professional. This concept is going to be evolving. The traditional role played by the family doctor will progressively be shifted towards a care team. This seems trivial, but we need to realize that we were used to be in a centralized system where all of the memory was in one health professional, and now it's going to be distributed among many health professionals. And in this transition, we'll need to bridge the fact that there's lots of lost intelligence, for example, from the simple GP's knowledge of your family's medical history. In this new care team, there will be a huge need for automation, particularly in regard to administrative tasks, something that most health professionals will welcome gladly. And then, of course, this whole question of continuous process redesign, because this is where the merits of AI come in, is with better diagnostics, we also have the possibility to rethink what are the care pathways, how can we redesign them in the optic of better health outcomes. With this new care team that's coming over, there's a need for AI, particularly as these younger, more digital health professionals are going to be more willing to rely on AI-driven diagnostic support systems. Here, what I just quickly showed to you is actually an illustration from a Danish company called Corti AI. They trained their AI on emergency call audio recordings in order to predict in real time whether a caller was at risk of cardiac arrest and whether they needed to make the decision of sending an ambulance or not, trying to make that faster. Now they are extending their initial AI that they had already trained on these voice pattern recognition, voice recognition to broader use cases. And the video I just showed you here is what they're starting to do in terms of diagnostic recommendations. This is a clear example of how you as AI professionals are going to be contributing to this tectonic shift. The second tectonic shift is the evolution of the medical file. From a dusty paper file to a digital one, yes, but that's really not the point. Too often people think that digitalization is just about transposing the current paper behavior to a digital behavior, and it's much, much more than that. In the future of healthcare, the medical file is going to go from an isolated set of medical snapshots, one vaccine data point, one MRI, to systematic data collection through sensors and devices. We're at the genesis of the time series analysis. I think it was Sabine that was actually showing an example of this, and it's going to happen at scale. That's the tectonic shift. Combined with new data sources, especially around genetics, what more can an AI ask for than large quantities of data to learn patterns from? The third tectonic shift will be the change of the place of care. And here, I actually want to tell you, it's time that we wake up on what's happening in other parts of the world, because, okay, that's not the right slide. Here you go. So in China, and I hope the video is going to start, they're reinventing the place of care, generalizing these type of medical booths. Okay, let me try and get that started again. There seems to be a problem with this video, sorry. Anyway, so here, what I was going to show to you is basically a photo booth, which is actually a medical booth that provides patients with 24/7 remote video consultations. And these booths, there are over 2,000 that are basically set up all across China. These medical booths are available, give you access to doctors remotely, but they also have vitals measurement tools. And so they're used by the Chinese patient population in order to have very quick medical decisions, particularly around triage, saying, okay, well, am I confronted to an emergency and what should I do about it? The reason why I wanted to show you this picture is because it's the third tectonic shift. Care team, medical file, change of the place of care. And across all of those three tectonic shifts, I've shown to you that basically AI is going to be having a huge role. To close, and because we're in the realm of dreams and moonshots, I basically want to share my aspiration for Belgium. It's for all of us to wake up. And it's time that we become serious on fixing our AI foundation. I mean, it's great to say that we want to be number one, and I'm, for those who know me, the first person to want to be ambitious, but it's also totally unrealistic if we start a race with untied shoelaces and our hands tied up in our backs. For me, it's really a question of what type of AI do we want? Simply the one that delivers optimizations to our current system, or actually an AI strategy that really moves the needle towards the type of transformation that we actually really desire. And we're not going to get there if we don't accelerate on setting nomenclature standards, breaking data silos, and offering an incentive model that actually rewards AI research in regard to the capture of productivity gains. Okay, and so I'm stating the obvious for a lot of us, but it's time for us to actually move on these three topics. And that's going to be my closure, my call to action. I'm actually part of a wider community of healthcare opinion leaders. We're actually going to be working on this topic in the next few weeks. If you were compelled with what I said, agreeing, disagreeing, want to enrich the thinking, don't hesitate to reach out to me. We're going to group up together and try to accelerate this agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sebastian, for this very inspiring talk, and looking forward to work together with our initiatives to move forward. Okay, so we are now entering, and we are right on track, the roundtable. So do you, as a public, have any questions for our speakers so that we may share it? Okay, let's wait a few more seconds. Okay, so what have we learned with this event? Because of course, doing talks is all fine, but how do we move forward is the real deal. We have learned that Belgium needs a moonshot. And as Thierry told us, the moonshot for health is the most logical one and the most feasible one. Why is the most feasible one? As our speakers, Benoit, Anne, and Sabine told us, Belgium is the right research ecosystem for having a moonshot in AI and health. Wallonia with the MedResist project, Flanders with the AI Flanders Research Program, and the other non-technical projects surrounding AI that are flourishing in the Brussels regions. But told us that Belgium is also a vibrant business ecosystem for our AI for health topics, and showed us all the actions that are taking place within the investment and business sides surrounding health and the digital. Of course, once we have established that Belgium is a great ecosystem all around for artificial intelligence in health, how do we move forward? Of course, with our regions having taken a lot of initiatives and having constructed some solid ecosystems for AI, of course, we need a national ambition, and the national ambition should tackle on those topics that we should tackle together. That is reimbursement, that is structuring the implementation and helping the hospital into implementing the AI solutions, but also educating and supporting our healthcare professionals and institutions into getting the AI trained. On the other hand, getting the AI right is just one, of course, aspect. We have to deal with the healthcare change as a whole. And this is what Sebastian told us. We need to take care of 3 tectonic shifts if we want to integrate the AI for health revolution into our Belgian ecosystem and really have an AI moonshot in health. And it couldn't be a nicer conclusion than this. What is important is the ecosystem. As long as we are all working together to achieve this moonshot, we can do it. And this is the closing messages for today's session. I would like to thank you all for your presence today, and let's do it. Let's do this AI for Health moonshot for Belgium. Thank you all and have a very nice afternoon. Do not forget to join our next event, the AI for Hospitals workshop, that will take place in an hour at 3 p.m. with lots of experts around the table to guide our hospitals to take care of their very first AI project. See you soon.